Good evening, everyone. It is the 3BeerPod. Good people, good stories, and of course, good beer. Welcome to it. It is Chris and Tim with some technical difficulties to start. What is going on, Timmer? How you doing, buddy?
Smooth.
Oh, man.
Just another smooth Tuesday here in season 2. That's all good, Cloudy.
Season 2, episode 2. Welcome to it. It is the 3BeerPod. I've got two computers running. This one over here, the one that I usually use, my go-to, right, has decided to do an update. Always likes to do updates about 5 minutes before the show.
Solid.
So I'm on a Commodore 64.
Right, that's good. I'm rocking a brand new laptop, buddy.
Oh, nice.
Just bought a brand new laptop, and it is firing on all cylinders here. We didn't give it a test go at all, but we'll see how she goes here. I think she's good to go.
Season 2, episode number 2. Timber, we got some things to get here. Let's make sure we get to our sponsors. Of course, Shauna and her team over at the Health House. They're a sponsor of the 3BeerPod, and we obviously appreciate Shauna and all she does for the pod. And Timmer, I am excited to announce our second sponsor tonight.
Oh, buddy.
It is me.
Yes, you're back.
There we go.
This is different.
That's indeed different. Chris McLeod, Realty House, sales rep over there. If you're ever looking for a home, busy working on a couple deals right now. So if you are interested in buying or selling, the market is hot. I can help you out. There's my number. Get a hold of me over at Realty House. I have a new brokerage over there. So there you go. Thank you very much. Of course, you can download this podcast. If you're watching live here on Facebook, you can obviously tune in anytime on Facebook. You can be watching this whenever, but you can download it as well. Always great for a nice grass cutting listen is the 3BeerPod. Thanks last week to our guest, Jesse Lumsden, former Hamilton Tiger Cat, former Olympian, and former winner of Man Tracker.
That was a good episode, buddy. Big fan of that one. Love talking about the CFL was great, but the talking about the Olympics and of course Man Tracker. I don't know. I'm kind of addicted to Man Tracker now.
Yeah,
can't get enough of it. Having said that, you had mentioned that Jesse was, Hamilton's hottie?
Yes.
So, friend of the show sent us a picture.
Oh, no way.
Of this was 2011. This was Humps on a Mission. That is not Chris McLeod, but this right here. Look at this guy. That is Humps on a Mission, Chris McLeod. Look at that, buddy.
That's November, right?
That's November. Yeah, that was the November 2011. What a beauty.
Hanging up in the shop there.
Is that
Look at that.
Up?
Look at that stupid chin thing I got going
I was
on
going to point that out. Let's one more. Oh, let's get a big shot of that in there. Oh, yeah. What is that going on there? Oh, but solid camera work here. Wanted to keep it a secret here that we're going to pop this out, but check that out there. Oh, yeah.
What is that? What is that?
That?
I don't know.
You still have that? Let's check. Let's let's see it. What do you got going on now? You don't have that, do you?
Hold on. Let me pull you up here.
No.
No, fresh shade.
Is it just gray?
Thanks, Sluggo. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was a good message I got this week from one of our insiders. I wanted to make sure we passed that on.
Thank you to whomever that was. Appreciate that. All right, episode 2 here tonight. We're going to talk to Andy Nita coming up a little later on from Nita Beer Company, and he's going to join us tonight. We'll get to know a little bit more about Nita Beer. We have got Brian Wiseman standing by, current assistant coach of the Edmonton Oilers, Junior B legend, University of Michigan, former captain, 4-year guy there, played some professional hockey too, and he's got quite the story. So we're going to talk to Brian here in a few minutes. And we have got our buddy and groupie of the podcast, Darren Hebert, who we had to push off last week. We'll get him on a little bit later on. Here's junkie. Brian is standing by. So let's go quickly here, Tim. We got to start off with what you drinking, bud, and get to that here to kick off the show tonight. What you drinking, bud?
So our buddy Hebert, who hooked us up with Nita Beer Company, he actually toured them a couple weeks ago when he was in Ottawa. He has hooked us up with 3 beers. I have 3 beers. I think we might have some overlap. I'm not sure. I have a Gut Schmecken, which is a summer session IPA. And I have Mr. Brown has gone coconuts. This is a coconut flavored beer. You got that one too?
Yep.
And then I have the OPA, which is, or it might be OPA. We'll find out. I have that one, and it's a balanced IPA strong beer. I think I might start with that one tonight.
Yeah, I
got anything different there?
I got the Ginger of Sussex. It's a ginger spiced ale from Nita. There you go. And I've got this one, which is unlabeled, the Nita Beer Lager. I'm not sure what the name is on that, though. We'll have to ask Andy when he gets on a little bit later on. But you know what? I'm going to start with that one. I'll start with the mystery beer.
Mystery beer. I like it.
Mystery beer is here tonight.
I like it. I'm going to start with the Gut Schmecken first here. That's what I'm going with here. All right.
Well, should we get to our guests here tonight and get things rolling? We'll get to some beer buzz a little bit later on the pod tonight. Let's welcome though from looks like Brian Wiseman, assistant coach currently of the Edmonton Oilers. Are you? Looks like you're at the rink right now.
We are just in my office, yes. But you got me thirsty though.
That was my first question. I'm assuming there's no beers there kicking around the office.
Here we go.
That's the backbone of all good beers.
There we go.
We're excited to talk to you. Brian Wiseman is from Chatham, Kent, which Tim and I are hometown. Depends where you're listening from this from. You might recognize that name right away. Brian was a legend growing up through minor hockey and then played for the Chatham Micmacs at the time, which was the junior B team, and set all kinds of records here. And then you went off to University of Michigan, 4-year guy, played some pro hockey in the IHL, a little bit with the Maple Leafs, and then you ended up behind the bench with the Edmonton Oilers. But we're gonna cover all of that, Brian. I guess first of all, when was the last time you got back home this way? When were you back here?
Let me think now. Probably. So I've moved my family from Houston, Texas, 9 years ago now. Wife and 2 daughters. We moved up to Ann Arbor, Michigan when I took the job at the university. So we've been back frequently in the area in Chatham, Kent, and specifically Chatham. But probably last time would be I guess right around this time last summer, before the season got started, this coming season in Edmonton, and then in the pause that we were all going through as we're all trying to figure our way and navigate our way through it. And then I'm back in Edmonton now.
Where is home? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
So born in Chatham.
Yep.
I grew up in Bothwell till I was about 10 years old. And then my family, we moved to Chatham and through high school, and then left to go to the U.S. college.
And you went to CK, is that right?
I did, yeah.
Yes, that's great. I had a couple people reach out and say, "Oh my gosh, you got Brian Wiseman on. That's real cool." Ask him about getting kicked out of Bothwell for being too good of a hockey player.
Did my mother call you? No,
were you scoring like 400 goals a year or something as a kid?
It was. I tell you what. The community of Bothwell it's home to me. It really is. It's where I learned to play hockey. It's where in those, formidable years of, birth to I was 10, grade 5 when I left. The love of hockey started in Bothwell with the parents that were involved, the small town community that is involved and rally around the kids and supporting the kids in the rink. It really set me on this path of hockey being important to me and enjoyable.
And that's the one that jumped out is your whole career obviously has been hockey start to finish. And that's a dream for a lot of Canadian kids growing up is to just grow up in hockey. And so you come to the Micmacs. When you came to the Micmacs, who was your coach then?
We had Wayne Jacklin, was a great coach, junior coach. Steve English was there. And he was a long-standing junior coach in the area. And I grew up with good coach Gary Sabrin when I first moved to Chatham. He came back. His family moved in when he would finish his playing days. And so, again, in Chatham not being a big community as, I moved to Houston, Texas, and in Edmonton and such. But that local small community feel is special. And it's hard to explain to some people that have never lived it, have never been brought up in those environments. You got great friends, you got great family and friend support as you're going through this process. And it's a whole lot of fun. It just makes it so much more enjoyable in those types of communities. And they certainly backed the hockey. They had great people involved in hockey, in Bothell minor hockey for sure, with the likes of Bob Hamilton and Junior Kelly, and the list can go on. And then into Chatham, and their support with youth hockey was tremendous. And that's, like I said, and I reflect back on it, I've been fortunate to be involved in hockey in a number of different roles in different places and different stops. But the passion is there, just like you all, passion's involved in sports and doing what you do. It was like that and is like that for me in hockey. And the small community, Chatham, Bothell, really helped grow that and magnify that for me, that allowed me to continue on this journey.
Tim, did you have something there?
Yeah, no, I just remember the name Brian Wiseman growing up as a kid. And it was in the paper all the time. I remember reading Mike Bennett's columns about, Wiseman going to break the record. Benny always covered it well. Actually, today I had a buddy text me and saw that you're on and said, I think I was at the game where he broke the record, the scoring record that year. What was it? 147 points in 40 games. Can you tell us a little bit about what that season was like for you, Brian?
Yeah, it was tremendous. We had a great team. We ended up going to the Ontario Provincials, I think, to Game 7. But we had good players on our team. We had a good bunch of guys. We had good chemistry. And that, obviously, personally, that was a special year for me as far as the record and some of the adulation and maybe notoriety I got during that year. But it really allowed me, playing on a good team with good people and good coaches instructed, it allowed me to go on to my dream of going to a U.S. college, and the University of Michigan was that dream for me. And then that perpetuated and springboarded me into some professional hockey and into coaching. But that year was special, and running up to that record, lots of people, obviously, when I speak to them or back home, we talk about that and we reminisce a little bit. But going through a couple of those games, is he going to break the record this game? And I didn't. And next game, there's 3,000 people in in the Bull Barn, and it was unbelievable. It was a tremendous experience for me, hopefully for my teammates, and hopefully for the community.
That barn it's a dump. It really is. But when you get it packed, I was there that night. I still remember I was sitting behind the visitors bench, had the worst seats in the house, and I remember just every time you touch the puck, is it going to happen here? There's not a better place in hockey than that arena when it's buzzing. When it was a night, I'm telling you, and there's so many people. Tim, like your buddy said, he was there. I'm sure 10,000 people say I was there the night that Wiseman broke the record. But it's legendary. I told my 14-year-old son before this, he was asking, who do you get on tonight? And I said, Brian Wiseman. He said, no. And I said, well, I said, think about it, buddy. I said, you've seen his name, and he's like, no. And I said, at Memorial, there's a lot of young boys and young girls that have hit the ice at Memorial Arena, and your number 9 is still hanging up there, the only number retired by the Junior B franchise, and that's got to be neat. You're still the only number up there.
It certainly is. And when that was brought up to me years ago, I was quite flattered and honored, obviously. And my viewpoints changed a little bit here in the recent years. Certainly humbled and honored that they bestowed that upon me, and my numbers in the rafters and my name in the years I played there. I wish that maybe they recognize the number, but maybe they allow some others to wear that number. It's a common number, through youth hockey. There's been great hockey players wear number 9. So I would reach out. I would like to reach out to the ownership or whomever is some decision makers and allow people to wear that number, because as in how we're some of the youth now, they're associated with their number sometimes. So in fact, like we got a guy on our team, it's 97. It's the birth years are interesting. And so numbers are important to kids. And if someone was, had a number 9 for whatever reason, that I believe that person should have the opportunity to wear that number and represent that number, in Chatham Junior B hockey.
It was quite, I just remember the buzz in the arena that night, and I know a lot of fans still talk about it, and it was a lot of fun. But you went off to play University of Michigan, but you weren't drafted by, it was Sudbury, right, into the OHL?
I was, yeah.
what was that decision like? Because that's what a lot of 15, 16-year-old kids have to decide. Do they want to go to the OHL route and go that way, or do they go to the college route? What made you decide to go to Michigan?
Yeah, I think in the end, I was a late draft to Sudbury. I think at that point, I didn't have these grand visions that I was going to be a pro hockey player. I wasn't sure what direction my life would take after hockey in a few years span, in a short window. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to get educated and get an education. And if I could get that paid for, that's icing on the cake. And that led me to obviously the U.S. college hockey route. And then I had a nice career at Michigan, and it allowed me then to continue on and play some pro hockey. I think it's different now. We talked about that was the path kind of to the NHL, was major junior hockey. I think there's multiple paths now that are all effective, and all maybe individually catered to certain players and certain types of individuals, of what importance they place on some different things. So it wasn't necessarily like that then, but I certainly didn't have these grand visions that I was going to be playing professional hockey and earn some living for some amount of years. I wanted to make sure I had an education, and if I could get it paid for, that was first and foremost, and that was the path, and that was the decisions ultimately that came down to.
To be honest, you scored 3.5 points a game. You had 147 points that year, and you didn't think you'd play pro hockey? Like a Canadian kid, and I'm sure parents are thinking, oh, he's on his way. He's on his way. He's next big thing. You had the mindset to think, I'd rather get an education.
Well, not rather, but at least protect myself if it didn't, right? And so I thought that protected still my opportunity to push and try to fulfill some dreams, but at the same time gave me a great safety blanket, a safety net, if you will, for life after hockey, whenever that day comes. Was it going to come in 3 or 4 years after that, or was it going to be a number of years down the road? But again, remember, it's a little different game back then. The smaller, slower player was about probably high priority on a lot of GM's lists.
Yeah, that's true. You were at a different time, and before we get to how your career kind of ended up, I want to talk about your time at Michigan and what that was like. That's legendary. The Ann Arbor, playing there, not only the football team and the basketball team, but that hockey team, and going there must have been like such a thrill to put that jersey on.
It really was. Before U.S. college hockey or lots of amateur hockey was, whether it was online, it was tough to find some information, or certainly not on television a whole lot at that time. For me, I grew up a Michigan football fan. I used to travel across the border and catch the Saturday afternoon, and I was a Michigan fan. I wore Michigan paraphernalia. I was all in with Go Blue. And then in '89, the basketball team wins the championship. I remember my buddy and I, actually Jason Hunter, who's still around the area, and he and I drove over, after they won, and we got some T-shirts and came back. So we were all in Michigan as far as I was a sports fan. And then the opportunity when this hockey thing was kind of working itself out, that there might be an opportunity for me to go to a place like Michigan. And I had some tough decisions. I had some small schools and some other bigger schools that I was trying to figure out what was the best place for me to be successful, to thrive at, to be really happy at. And in the end, it was, Michigan always came out when I did, some of these, thinking sessions for myself. It came out on top all the time. The proximity to home was important to me. It's, it's a couple-hour drive door to door right to Ann Arbor, Michigan. So my family was able to enjoy, my 4-year experience in Michigan. But my 4 years at Michigan was by far the best, the most memorable 4 years of my life for a whole bunch of different reasons. You start growing up from 18 to 22, and we know some of those things and how that people start to change and trend, and move in a different direction, and what's important and what's not. I've met some of my greatest friends ever still to this day from my time in Michigan. I met brilliant people that came over from all over the world to go study at Michigan, not necessarily be student athletes at Michigan, to study at Michigan. Those are friends of mine that I was rubbing shoulders with. The Fab Five came in the year after I was there. So lots of really neat things and neat people that I was associated with, fortunate to be associated with, and or be able to be around. And it certainly, on the ice, was a tremendous experience for myself, playing under Red Berenson, who is, for me, is a legend. a Hall of Famer, and hopefully a future hockey Hall of Famer. And then playing with great teammates and have great friendships forever. It really was a tremendous 4 years.
I interviewed Red Berenson last year at a charity game, and he said, "Where are you from, young man?" And I said, "I'm from Chatham, Kent." He goes, "Brian Wiseman was my captain for right away." And he's like, "I've been there many times, Memorial Arena." And he just starts dropping because he would obviously come and do some scouting. I thought that was pretty neat. Tim and I chatted this afternoon, and you mentioned it. The Fab Five came in your second year when you were with Michigan. Jalen Rose, you had Jawan Howard, Chris Webber, Jimmy King, and I'm missing somebody in there.
Ray Jackson.
Yes. What was there any crossover? Did you get to hang out with the basketball team at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Like obviously you might have had some classes with them. Hockey, obviously football is football at the University of Michigan. Basketball and the Fab Five took basketball, even though they won in '89, they took it to a whole nother level. Not even just at Michigan or in the state or in the region. They became, a national kind of phenomenon of what they were doing in those five young athletes. But hockey's not too far off of that. So yeah, they would come to our game and support us, and we would go to their game. And I remember that first year was kind of like the first practice came, whatever day it was, and they had Midnight Madness. And I think they might have been one of the first teams, and lots of teams do it now, or they have in recent years. And I remember going to this practice at 12:01 a.m., and it was electrifying seeing these five guys do their thing with the other teammates. And we were close to some other guys on the team, just that were in our class, we were sophomores, the Fab Five were freshmen, but we did have some crossover. And they certainly was the way they were entertaining five and an entertaining team, and certainly successful.
That's really neat. So then you go on to at a college. You signed with the Leafs, is that right?
I did. So I was drafted by the Rangers, maybe after my first year, I think it was, and I had an opportunity to sign with them. How it worked out is, I figured I'd be playing in their minor league system, and at that time was out east. The IHL came in they started expanding in '94, and it became a prominent league in teams of Detroit and Chicago and Houston, San Francisco. So they had a big expansion in '94. So there was an opportunity, hopefully, for someone trying to start their professional career. And then there was great hockey players that were just not finished their professional career that played, hundreds of games in the National Hockey League. So I opted to sign with the independent Chicago Wolves, and I signed a 2-year contract out of college. So '94 season, '95 season, and then I signed with the Leafs in '96 as a free agent.
And you played 1 year in St. John's, and then you played 3 games with the Leafs.
I did. Parts of 3 games, yeah.
parts of 3 games. Timmer, you were watching his debut. Was it today you watched that?
Yeah, it was from the Chatham Sports Hall of Fame. Had a little video online, and Todd Warner was in your debut. I think Todd was on the second line, and you were on the fourth line, and it was pretty cool just to hear Bob Cole and Harry Neal talk about you in your debut. I guess what that leads me to is, what does Brian Wiseman look like in today's NHL? You've talked about how the game has changed. When you were coming up through and into professional hockey, how does your game fit into the new NHL? Yeah,
it's a question that gets brought up occasionally as far as some of the skill sets I had. I don't know how it would translate. The guys are so fast and they're so big and so strong now. They're complete packages, and I certainly wasn't that as a hockey player, but I did have some attributes. How I thought the game, I think, is translatable to how the game's played today. I have this. That was my thing, ability to understand where guys should be and hopefully try to maximize their talents and make players around me better. That was kind of my niche as a hockey player, if you will, was some of those abilities. So that you see lots of players do nowadays. But I tell you what, these guys are specimens. They take their job so serious, and the commitment to fitness and nutrition, let alone the skill development and everything that goes along with it. And we've got a couple of the best in the world that play right here in Edmonton, and it's a privilege to be around.
Well, talking to Brian Wiseman, who played with the Chatham Micmacs for years, went off to University of Michigan, and is now the assistant coach of the Edmonton Oilers in the NHL. And You mentioned a couple of guys you got playing for you. Leon Draisaitl, great player, but then you got Connor McDavid. And what's it like being Connor McDavid's coach? Is that the easiest job ever?
That's right. I'm certainly not telling him how to play offense or skate or do some things on the ice a whole lot. I will tell you, like, Connor's a very humble individual, certainly respectful of the coaches here, his teammates. He's extremely well. He's a tremendous captain and leader for our team. But what he does on the ice as someone new into this, coaching in the National Hockey League, it leaves you jaw dropping at times, certainly in practice, let alone games. And it leaves his teammates looking around after, a rush down the ice and something happens. Like, Jesus, you ever seen something like that? Those comments and the snide remarks that are from his teammates. And so, he is so fast and so good. And he does it every day. And, when I was at Michigan, recruiting was a part of being assistant coach at Michigan in the last few years. You talked about, like, how do guys make it? What do they need to do? It is this intrinsic competitiveness to want to be better every day. He's got it, and he brings it every day, and it's certainly special to be around.
Is there times you're behind the bench and you're like, oh, man, I'm not sure what to do? Connor, go, you're up, and just throw him on the board and just see what happens here.
That would be Coach Tippett's role, but yeah, I'm sure that there'd be lots of times like, all right, 97, you go again. And he's got a motor and a tank that can, take a lot, and he plays a lot on our team. He's a big part, obviously. My role actually here, I'm up in the press box, and so I get that viewpoint for the games and come down in between and we make some adjustments or whatever that we may see as a staff. So to see the game even up there, it usually, most people say that slows it down a little bit from that viewpoint. It's still fast when he's on the ice.
Yeah.
Got to ask, so this timing just worked out. It's not training camp. What are we calling this? Retraining camp right now in the NHL?
We're certainly not calling it training camp around here. We're getting playoff ready. And that's our goal here, is to get our team here ready for the restart, however you want to term it. But it's certainly not training camp. We're going full go. We just had our second day on the ice today. Guys are anxious. They're excited, and for this opportunity for sure.
And Edmonton is one of the hub cities. So will you be staying home, or will you have to check into a hotel? What's that situation going to be like once things start going?
Yeah, so they'll put us all in the hotel. So all 12 teams will be in the hotel, including the home hub team. You're allowed a 52 party group, and that's 31 players plus then another 21 individuals, staff and support staff and management and things of that nature that will move into, I think it's the 25th or 25th maybe, into the hotel. So it's going to be a different Stanley Cup, playoff. It's going to be unique, but it's going to be tough. We have a plan. We have 19 games to win, not 16, to reach the ultimate goal of what we want to do. We will start a play-in series with the Blackhawks, I believe, on August 1st. So we're gearing up with a couple weeks of practice for that. We'll have one exhibition game that just came out today that we'll play the Calgary Flames. In our exhibition game, every team will get one, and we're trying to get as ready as we can, our team, and then get prepared for Chicago in due time.
What's the overall feel like, Brian, getting ready to go into this hub? Like, were the guys worried about is there frustrations, or is it just we're excited, we're ready to go? What's the overall feeling here?
Yeah, I think there's certainly excitement trumps everything. The opportunity to win the Stanley Cup is second to none. And that's been our focus. That's kind of what we've been talking about for a couple of days. Mind you, we've only had some access to our players the last couple of days, even though they were in ours were obviously here in Edmonton, or other clubs were in their home cities. We didn't have any face-to-face interaction with the players. They had little pods of groups of 6 or 12. It grew to 12 leading up until this phase that we're in now. And so you had very little interaction with the team as a group, face-to-face. So we took advantage of some meetings yesterday, getting on the ice and just getting some tempo and having fun and getting your feet and your hands and your head around everything. So in due time, we'll figure out how that works with going into the hub. But I will say the NHL has done a tremendous job of making sure it is as secure as possible and as safe as possible. And that's paramount, the safety of these athletes and all those around. And that's the goal that we can hopefully be able to continue this journey through the playoffs.
That's great.
Tim, you got anything else there?
No, go ahead, buddy.
No, I was just going to say, Brian, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know things are busy in Edmonton and busy working towards getting set for the what are they calling it again? It's not the playoffs yet. It's the play-in round.
We got the play-in, and then we hopefully the 4 teams that advance, they qualify for the playoffs. So there's some unique circumstances going on, but it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting for the hockey fan of lots of hockey every day. So obviously for me as a coach and our team, I'm excited for the opportunity to compete for the Stanley Cup, and that's the ultimate goal for us. And so that's exciting. That's fun. It's really something. I'm away from my family. I have been. They stayed in Michigan this year, so that we had some time that I went periods of without seeing my wife or kids. This is another stretch of time I had to come into into Edmonton, quarantine for a couple weeks before being able to get out of my apartment and then into the rink here. And when day one starts for hockey, it could be 72 days before, the last team standing. So we know what's at stake. We know the sacrifices these players are making to pursue this dream. And they should be commended for that one first and foremost. And this gets pulled off in a safe manner. It's going to be exciting hockey.
It's going to be a sprint, that's for sure, and the team that can stay healthiest. Best of luck, Brian. It's pretty neat to speak to. Grew up watching you, and need to catch up, and maybe we'll get you on again sometime. Thanks a lot.
I'd love to. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Brian.
Brian
Appreciate
Wiseman,
awesome.
assistant coach of the Edmonton Oilers. You know what? I didn't wish you highlight this. Here's Brian. His time in Michigan. Face off, chases the puck down, dives to keep it alive. Here, Brian's let's pull him back in here. There he goes. Quick little shot. Brian, hold on. Let me pull Brian back in here. Brian, you remember that goal there?
I've seen some replays. I don't specifically remember the goal. I remember actually the shot or the play happened. I don't remember anything thereafter. But, that's at Yost. That's in front of great fans and, 6,000 screaming fans, the band's going. Those are great memories that I take with me that, I may not have had the longest, greatest professional careers, most successful. But there's those times, those memories that are certainly special that I can reflect back on and put a smile on my face.
That's one thing, guys our age. There's not a whole lot of video of our accomplishments. So
that may be good things with some different situations. I had my former teammate Todd Warner. He was a tremendous player in Junior B, and then he went on to have a tremendous career. Obviously in the OHL and then in the National Hockey League. And there was a guy that was one of the premier, most elite skaters.
Yeah.
In the area by far, a smart hockey player, very gifted, but a really good person, good teammate. So if you see him around, please say hi.
We do for sure. Brian's been a guest, or Todd, I'm sorry, has been a guest on this show, and former Michigan legend too, Marty Turco, who owns a brewery in Kingsville. So
that's right.
Couple threads right there. Brian, we appreciate your time. We'll let you get to it. Get a beer in you, all right?
Thanks very much, guys. I appreciate it.
There you go.
Thanks, Brian.
That's pretty awesome. That is awesome.
That's really cool.
That is really
That was awesome.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, good luck in the playoffs, Brian. That is awesome. Live from the Edmonton Oilers, the rink there. I think it's called the Rogers Center, but we do appreciate it. That's pretty neat.
Cool is that?
That's really cool. That's really cool. Always took. Yeah, he always. Mike brings up a good point. He used to welcome fans into Yost, local kids and teams into Yost all the time and show them around. So that was pretty neat. Yeah, very cool. All right, episode number 2 of season 2. Tim, we do have Andy standing by from Nita. Let's get into that, and then we'll do some beer buzz, and then we're going to get our guest. We'll talk to Andy here in a minute, but we're also going to talk to our buddy Darren Ebert, who is a local beer nerd. We'll get him on, but he is the one that connected us with Andy Nita from Nita Beer Company. I hear you're cracking one there, Andy. How you doing, bud?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Very good.
We're doing great. We're doing great. I'm actually trying the Mr. Brown has gone coconuts right now. What a delicious beer.
Oh, thanks. And that's a rare commodity. We've sold out now for a couple of weeks. So that's gold, liquid gold in your hand until we can make some more.
Oh, that's good. That is really good stuff. Andy, I got this. We called it the no name surprise. What is? I couldn't read the label. It's the lager.
Oh, Hans and de Hosen.
Yeah, that's okay. That didn't last long. That's
Good.
That was delicious. Nita Beer Company. Where are you guys located? How do we find you?
We're in Ottawa, Ontario, in the Nepean region, 190 Colonnade Road, Unit 17. We're kind of like tucked away in a commercial complex, but I mean, if you're on the Google Maps and you punch in our address, it'll bring you to us quite easily.
So our buddy Darren was able to go and meet you and tour and had great things to say about the brewery. What got you started into this business? What made you jump into becoming a brewer, Andy?
Well, it's I used to be an electrical contractor, an electrical tradesperson many years ago, and I was also a professor at Algonquin College, and I started to transition into being a professor at the college as my joints started to fail, and I was feeling old, and decided to get off the tools. And as a new employee at the college, you can just gather that, you know, you're going to get the worst courses to teach, all the ones that nobody else wants to touch. And one of the courses was instrumentation. And just to sort of summarize what that is, it's measurement tools. So measuring temperature, measuring pressure, volume, flow rates. These are things that you'll likely see in large industrial processes where you manufacture goods. But a lot of the students that we're getting in the Ottawa area are all construction guys. So they didn't want any part of it. They hated it. I had to try and find a way to make it interesting. So I'm a pretty heavy beer drinker. And I usually tell people if they come to the brewery on tours, like, I really got into this because I'm a volume drinker. And my wife was sort of saying, you got to find a way to get your costs down. And for me, it's cheaper to make it than it is to buy it.
Yeah.
But in the process of trying to get some buy-in from the students, I looked at the beer process and used that sort of as the narrative for a lot of the curriculum that I had to try and get these kids to digest. And with a lot of tradespeople, you know, they drink a lot of beer. As soon as you say, hey, who likes drinking beer? You've got their attention. And then if you can tell them how to make it,
wow,
you own them. So that's sort of how I got my start into it, was to trying to connect with the students. And, you know, it's always trying to refine that curriculum, always do a better job. I learned more and more about making beer, and to the point where I said, you know, I'm gonna try and make this beer. And I started homebrewing just over 6 years ago. And that was around the time my wife was pregnant with the second of our 3 boys. And she was lamenting about how much I was drinking, not so much the volume, but the cost associated with it. Because when she went on mat leave, obviously we had reduced income, and she said, you got to find a way to deal with this. So I said, I'm just going to make beer. And that's kind of where it all started. She said, go ahead, make beer. And here I am now. I own a brewery, and I don't profess. I don't electrical contract. I just quality control and make beer all day.
Sounds pretty awesome to me.
That's a new term I'm using
life.
now. I'm using volume drinker more often. I might actually put it on my resume. Chris McLeod, volume drinker. I love that. This Tim, are you still on the coconut? Tim, you still drinking that?
Yeah, I just poured a little bit more of that one. It's delicious.
Yeah. What are you drinking there, Andy?
I'm just actually going to start on a Hans and de Hosen. Here, let's get into frame here. There we are.
There you go. Get it up there.
And then my backup, if depending on how long we go, and I drink pretty fast, I have a Gooch Mecken, which is a pretty hoppy on flavor, but not too bitter pale ale, which is, there you go. It's a summer treat right there.
It's what nice, refreshing, just really drinkable, very tasty for sure.
Thank you so much.
That was that's what I started with tonight. But this coconut one is something that I've never had this flavor before, really, and it's not overpowering, but very delicious.
Oh, thank you. It's one of those beers that it's hard to make and to squeeze all the beer out of the beer, because the fact we're using real coconut on that. So we use two types of coconut. We use a raw shredded coconut, and then we use a toasted shredded coconut. And essentially what we try and do is we've built a similar to a hop torpedo for any of the beer nerds out there. Yep. But instead we put coconut into it. But then we have to have several filters after that coconut torpedo, because we don't want any of that coconut particulate to get into the finished beer. So basically we cycle beer through it at a high velocity over about 48 hours at room temperature to extract all the flavors from the natural coconut. It's a labor of love, but I'm not going to lie to you, it's probably my least favorite beer.
Oh, really?
I'm not a coconut guy, but it has its audience and its fans. And I think the year that we had opened as a brewery went to the Ottawa Craft Beer Festival, and that beer we kind of did as a larf. Ended up earning us the People's Choice Award at that beer festival, and we'd developed quite a following, and so we still make it.
Yeah, I could definitely see it, because I think it's pretty unique, right? It's not what I'm going to drink 6 of, but it's a unique flavor that I've never had before. It's delicious.
It's interesting. If you like coconut, you love it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not a coconut fan, then it's probably hard to chew, but it's fun to make. I like the challenges.
For sure.
You know,
what has this time been like for you? With the shutdowns, with the not being able to do probably what you're used to doing. How has that time been for you as a brewery? I know a lot of breweries are either doing awesome or they're struggling. Where are you kind of fitting into that mix right now, Andy?
I think because of the type of brewery we are, we're more a production brewery. And we serviced a fair number of restaurants. I think we're chugging along. We're not losing money, but we're not going to have a banner year, largely because we lost about 25% of our business when the restaurants went down. We got shored up a bit by the support from a lot of people in Ottawa saying, let's support local business, which was great. And we love the fact that Ottawa has helped keep us afloat. But there were some challenges. We had to do a bit of restructuring in terms of our staffing, and fortunately for our employees that we're running, let's say, the front of house, doing the buy the glass or operating the bar, they're able to serve. So because a lot of them were part-timers, they're actually probably doing a little bit better on serve right now than they would have been working for us. But we're struggling with trying to find now a way to bring people back to the brewery where that front of house experience is viable, because we have such a small front of house, and Darren, who was there, there's not a lot of room. It'll be a challenge to bring people in, and we have a landlord that won't let us set up a patio, so we can't capitalize on that opportunity that some restaurants have. So for now, we're really thankful for the support that we get from people doing the free home delivery to their houses, and those people that are coming to the retail outlet to do just pick up.
Forgive me for my ignorance, Andy. Are you in the stage 3 opening? Is your region?
Ottawa's in stage 3.
Okay.
But we're still trying to look at, how we can make that viable on our end. So we're negotiating with our landlord to see what opportunities might exist in terms of outdoor sort of seating and stuff. But for now, probably, come Friday, we'll still just be a retail sort of outlets, and we'll continue to do the free home delivery in the local Ottawa area. For
Nita Beer Company. Well, that was my next question, is nitabeer.com. What is your delivery situation like? So it's just in your area, or are you going all over the place?
So what we do is we try to service the entire Ottawa Valley area within reason, and we usually try to sort of pick a day for areas that are a good distance from our brewery. So my wife set this up. I spend a lot of time in the back, but I'm gonna see if I can do a good job of trying to remembering this. I think Wednesdays We try and hit the Manotick area. Thursdays, maybe it's Canada. And then Friday we do our Orleans area.
Okay.
And then every day we'll generally do the Ottawa core. So we try and set it up so if people can manage, their beer consumption and say, I'm going to need beer by Thursday and I'm in that delivery zone, then hopefully they'll make a Nita Beer purchase, and obviously they'll be satisfied with delicious beer. But it always takes a lot of planning, I think, for people to sort of determine what their beer needs are going to be for the week. Well,
we're a podcast that we focus on Ontario beer quite often. We're in southwestern Ontario. I think you're the furthest brewery that we've ever really conversed with here on the show. But that's the thing with the way this whole pandemic's been. People are rediscovering their province a little more too, and they're doing a little traveling within the province. So if we got any listeners that are on the road in the Ottawa area, make sure you stop by Nita Beer and take a visit. I originally thought when Tim said we got Nita Beer on, I thought it was like a play on, hey, Nita Beer. I need another beer. I need another beer. But that's your last name. And I didn't know that until this afternoon when Tim said his name is Andy Nita. And I was like, oh, I thought it was just Nita Beer, need another beer. But I thought that was pretty fun. Maybe it's just me, but
it creates a lot of confusion with suppliers, customers, and salespeople for sure. Originally, I wanted to call the brewery Patty's Brewing Company, and Patty's my middle son, and I thought it would be ironic because he has celiac disease, and
he's not going to enjoy it.
I've got one of those sense of humors, but it's funny. So I was watching some of your guest, before me, and a buddy of mine, Trevor, who would have been pretty excited to catch that because he's a huge Oilers fan. He was the one at a dinner party that suggested, instead of calling it Patty's Brewing, you're going to have to deal with competition from like Patty's Pub, and right. There's a whole bunch of bars named Patty in Ottawa because it's so Irish and East Coast in the area that why don't you just call it Nita Beer and play on the whole sort of valley twang, and that's kind of naturally the way that it's gone, and so we went that way based on his suggestion, and I think it's worked out pretty good.
We got a question here here's a question from Carrie. It says, can we get your beer in the LCBO? No,
you cannot, just yet. We're starting to work with finding ways to work with the LCBO now. It's quite an uphill battle as a small craft brewery, especially in Ontario with a saturation of breweries now all trying to get that shelf space at the LCBO. That we went the way of the beer store because it's so much more accessible and it gets our product onto the retail shelves very, very quickly. With the LCBO, you're looking, if you get selected as a beer to go on their shelves, usually about 9 months to a year before you can actually see an operating SKU. So we fast tracked and worked with the beer store, but we are looking at the LCBO now to bring in one of our beers called Bijou. It has a unicorn on it. It's a brewed IPA, which is if I wasn't drinking Hans into Hosen because I still have to go back and finish working on my deck outside, I'd be crushing the Bijou IPA, because I won't have to operate cutting tools.
It's a
good tip. That's a great tip.
Good idea.
Andy,
keep my fingers.
Do you have Ontario shipping though? If we have people in our area that want to get the beer, do you offer Ontario shipping?
We do, and I think it's a flat rate now. I think it's either $10 or $15, and I should know these things because I'm the namesake. But my wife Bridget, who's been great at managing a lot of the online and doing the financial stuff, does these things, and she works tirelessly with Shopify to make things work just brilliantly online. She would know better than I would.
For sure. I know that a lot of my friends have passed the time of lockdown by ordering beer online. So hopefully they'll get on your website and order some beer and have it shipped this way. I'm really enjoying it. The last one that I'm enjoying is this one here. Can you just tell?
Oh,
everybody?
the Opa. Oh, yeah. Nice. That's another beer that we're sold out of.
Oh, some exclusive beer here on the 3Beer podcast.
Living the dream.
This is
That beer
fantastic.
won't be back. We won't have that one ready until the end of August again because we're pretty backlogged in terms of trying to maintain our brands. But that one we thought we'd put on the back burner because I would say that one's better for cooler weather than warmer weather, just because it's a bit more viscous and more caramely. People, I think, right now, and what we're seeing in sales is they want the light,
for sure,
citrusy, easy drinking beers of lower alcohol. So that's what we're trying to grind out right now.
For those volume drinkers out there.
Yeah, for me.
That's fantastic. I've really enjoyed the beer, Andy. I really have, and I know that Darren spoke really highly of your brewery, and I can't wait to get back to the Ottawa area, have some family up there. Love the Ottawa beers in general, and love the area. So hopefully we can get up there sometime soon, and we'll come for a visit. Until then, I'll just order some beer online.
And if you're in the Ottawa area, for sure, what we'll do is let me know you're coming, and we'll give you the premier tour.
We'd love it.
That's
want to see the deck too, Andy. Want to see no blood or appendages. That would be appreciated.
Sure, fair enough.
Andy, we appreciate it. NitaBeer.com. You can find it online. If you're in the Ottawa area, look them up and track them down. Andy, thanks so much. Oh, Andy, before we get to that, we wanted to ask you, so at the bottom of your beers on the labels, I don't know if we can see. Maybe I can zoom in here. Hold on here. Let me see if I can do this. You've got right here. So fun, anytime, adventure, and extreme. What's the story behind that?
So before I had kids, I would do like a lot of downhill skiing and a lot of mountain biking. And so a lot of the trails are shared, obviously, if you're up in the hills. And what we decided to do is to try to, set some expectations for our customers so that they knew what they were getting into. So if you wanted a fun, easy drinking beer, you're going to go with your green. If you wanted to ratchet it up and do something a little bit more crazy, you hit the black diamond. And so we thought it'd be a fun way to sort of rate our beers and set people's expectations for their beer experience, much the same way you would if you're going skiing or dropping in on a trail on your mountain bike. So I thought that was kind of fun. It was my wife's idea, actually. It was pretty good.
I love it. She's one of your best employees, it sounds like.
She is. Yeah. Someone's got to run the ship, right? She's the captain, and I'm just, I'm up in the deck making beer.
Love it. Love it. Andy, thanks so much. Andy from Nita Beer Company. There you are at NitaBeer.com. Thanks, Andy.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Have a great night.
Have a good one.
Take care, Andy. Appreciate it.
There you go.
That's some good beer, buddy. I hope some people jump on there and support Ontario Craft Brewery. I love the story, eh? Just like trying to connect with students, and then turns into, hey, open a brewery.
Well, I love these little stories too with these craft breweries. Is that the family behind it? Think about well, look at our friends over at Sons of Kent. Look at Red Barn. Look at Natterjack, who we've had on. There's a big family tie, and it's not all about. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's not about getting hammered and down in 14 beers as a volume drinker. It's about some of the good beers, good stories, and just having a good time with good people. And I love that story from Nita Beer.
Andy seems like a good dude too. I think we need to stop by in the Ottawa region. I think that would be some good stories, and have a couple of beers with him. I think it'd be good times.
Sign up now for the 3BeerPod road trip, which is to be determined, TBD.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fill out the form and show what you're interested in jumping on a bus with us. We could do a bus trip, eh? We had mentioned bus trip in episode 4, season 1.
Yeah.
We're getting closer. We can have people indoors now.
Everyone
wears a mask on the bus.
It's coming. It's coming. Stage 4 or 5.
How many stages are there?
Dougie Ford's going to get up and announce in stage 5 that the 3BeerPod bus trip is a go.
Finally, stage 5 beer bus trips are a go. So that's fantastic.
That's so fun.
That's fantastic. That's good. That was good stuff, man.
I like
You
that.
got anything else? We got some beer buzz? Let's
I
do
do
it.
have some beer buzz, Timmer. We have to get to this. There's a Calgary brewer. This is the headline. Calgary brewer pulls Karen Cherry Sour beer from shelves after backlash. This happened last Friday.
Oh.
Calgary's Common Crown Brewing Company apologized for its Karen Cherry Sour and pulled the beverage after complaints about the name. The brewery named the beer after the internet coined Karen, used to refer to an entitled woman utilizing her privilege in public spaces. You know, the Karen. I want to speak to your manager.
Oh, man.
Karen.
And they pulled it.
Yeah, they pulled it because they have other...
Because people were complaining?
Yeah, they had some slogans. The company celebrated the beer with slogans like, "Can we speak to your manager? Celebrate Karen with us today." So the company, Calgary's Common Crown Brewing, pulled it, and they issued it's the cancer culture. And I'm not saying in some respects it's not a good thing, but it's just they thought that Karen was a bit wasn't a good thing, so they pulled it off.
I like. Can I speak to your manager? IPA. That'd be a good one. Write that down for future.
But apparently, they said the Karen Cherry Sour was selling very well. It was
it was.
Yeah,
it's a good talking feature. I think any of these names that, that's what sells. Beer. Jesse talked about Jesse Lumsden last week was talking about beer art and how that sells. I think fun names sell beer too, right? Someone named classic. Someone named Karen complains, right?
Can I speak to the manager of the brewery, please?
Gotta pull it.
Here's another one. Vernon Bar names a beer after their provincial health officer, Dr. Bonnie Henry. BC's provincial health officer has already got a shoe. They've named an octopus at a zoo after her, and now she's got a cold glass of beer. The Martin Brew Pub in downtown Burton has named one of the beers the Bonnie Henry Blonde Ale to pay tribute to her work as the province's top doctor during the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, it is a top seller.
Well deserved. Ruined it for everyone.
Yeah, I have one more story in the beer buzz, Tim. You want me to get to this one? I actually have a bunch of them. We'll get to one more.
Yeah, let's hit it.
Here's a headline. Beer is good. Okay, so.
And that's it? There's nothing past the headline?
It says, the healthy properties of beer, when consumed in moderation, are a rich source of vitamins, fiber, minerals, and antioxidants, and that beer has a relatively low caloric value compared with many other alcoholic beverages. A report commissioned by the Beer Academy.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, everybody knows I'm a big fan of real science.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually care about the real science behind this this journal or this newspaper article.
It's one of the healthiest alcoholic drinks available, according to
100%.
According to people who like beer.
Can we post that link on our 3Beer podcast? I think that should go up there for everyone to read that article. Obviously, we agree here, and probably those volume drinkers like Andy was talking about, they would also agree with that.
You know who doesn't agree? 3Beer Karen.
I was just thinking about how terrible. Well, it's probably not terrible. People named Karen probably don't actually like being named Karen. Right now.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
I know some Karens that are great people.
Know some great Karens.
Yeah.
I won't mention the other Karens.
What is the male equivalent name of a Karen? So Karen,
probably Christopher.
That's what I was thinking. It's definitely going to be Chris, just the way life goes for me. An entitled woman utilizing your privilege in public spaces. That's a Karen. And we've all seen a Karen at the drive-thru. But what's the male equivalent?
Well, we'll bring that back for our next episode. We'll put that as a poll. What's the male equivalent? Kevin.
Kevin. I was going to say Paul.
Paul. I like Kevin.
Sort of the Pauls out there. Yeah.
Did you get your degree at the Beer Academy? Yeah, I should have.
That's so funny.
Can you imagine having a teacher like Andy Nita when you went to school? I think that would have changed some.
I might have had teachers like Andy Nita, but I didn't know it at the time.
Right. But he was just trying to connect with students and came up with a pretty cool end product. If I was in university and I had a science teacher and they were talking about beer, Might have changed my profession to something, Tad, something else.
We've got some other options for male Karens.
We'll keep working on that.
Mark says Darren's.
Speaking of Darren, episode
says
3.
Larry. Yeah.
Larry. There's a lot of people now not tuning in because we just named them.
We've just lost all our listeners named Kevin, Larry, Darren, and Tad.
Yeah.
and that 7 Karens that we had watching and tuning in.
Oh, man. I think next episode, Darren Eber comes on and talks about what it's like to be a Darren.
Yeah, we're out of time, Darren. Sorry, buddy. We'll have to get Darren on next episode. Darren Eber, who is our buddy and a beer fan, and we're going to get him on. He's the one that connected us with the folks from Nita and Andy over at Nita Beer Company, but unfortunately, we won't be able to get to Darren this week. Timmer, any final words this week on the old 3BeerPod?
No, that was a lot of fun. Talking to Brian Wiseman is pretty cool. You know, I remember as a kid listening or hearing about Brian Wiseman and getting to chat with him. Cool. It's pretty cool today.
He just Brian messaged me back, said thanks for the invite. Really enjoyed the conversation. Wanted to mention Kent Burns was a name that coached him growing up, in Wayne Cowell. Other coaches he had,
for sure.
Those are legendary hockey names in these parts.
For sure. You know what I thought about? He mentioned Gary Sabern.
Yes.
Gary Sabern. We got to reach out to the Sabern family. If we could get Gary Sabern hooked up with some technology, man, that's an interview. You ever talked to Gary Sabern? He's
not in a professional setting.
He is a gem.
Yeah.
That guy is amazing. Let's try and get Gary Sabern on a 3Beer podcast. Love Gary.
Timmer, we got to wrap this up. Look at that sun; it's starting to glare. So we got to
buddy, shut her down. Oh, that's bright. Yeah.
Season 2. Episode 2. Thanks again to Brian Wiseman, and good luck to the Edmonton Oilers in the play-ins and then the NHL playoffs. I hope they stay healthy, and best of luck to them. And, of course, Andy Nita from the Nita Beer Company, nitabeer.com. Any last words there, Timmer?
No, let's wrap it up. Hit the button, buddy.
Shut up. Thanks to me. Call me if you're looking to sell yourself a house. Thanks for tuning in.